Syrian President Assad being interviewed by Charlie Rose. How did he do? Now, I didn't see the whole interview, but I have seen analysis and transcripts of it. Here are the parts that caught my eye. He says, how can you talk about what happened if you don't have evidence? This is Assad to Charlie Rose. We're not like the American administration. We're not a social media administration. We deal with reality. I don't know if this is true or not, but it is a good dig. And first of all, I give points to Assad for simply going on with a mainstream journalist and a serious journalist and someone known as a tough journalist, Charlie Rose. He didn't just hide. He didn't just say all Western media is against us. I give Assad credit, and I'm not a fan of Assad, but I give him credit for sitting down with an extensive interview with Charlie Rose. It's not like he could tell Charlie Rose what to ask him. So, nice little dig there on the social media. Here's what else he says. What Kerry said reminds me about the big lie that Colin Powell said in front of the world about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq before going to war. This is our evidence. And actually, he gave false evidence in this case. Kerry didn't present any evidence. I do think a lot of people around the world seeing this interview, and a lot of Americans, will hear Assad say this, say, you know what? He's absolutely right. And this is one of the problems that George Bush and his administration will not be able to live down with some long time, because it does discredit a lot of what we're trying to do and say if we're the only ones with the evidence. It's one thing if the United Nations comes back and an outside body says evidence, but when the U.S. just says we got the evidence that somebody's doing something we don't like, this whole Colin Powell weapons of mass destruction thing is rightfully going to be thrown back in our faces. Now, here's the other thing he said. He said, American credibility is at an all-time low. This war is against the interest of the United States. This is a war that is going to support Al-Qaeda and the same people that killed America on the 11th of September. Now, from what I've read, certainly that is the case. There are a lot of people against Assad who are aligned with Al-Qaeda. And that is troubling for those of us who want to do whatever we can to get rid of Assad. It may, in fact, well be that the rebels are worse than Assad. Again, not to condone Assad using chemical weapons on his own people, but this is not, George Washington against King George. It just isn't. Now, here's the part that's chilling. When Rose asked Assad, will you retaliate? He said, you should expect everything. Not necessarily, here's the chilling part, not necessarily through the government. The government is not necessarily the only player in this region. Expect every action. Charlie Rose asked, including chemical warfare? That depends, Assad said. If the rebels or the terrorists in this region have it, it could happen. I don't know. Nobody expected the 11th of September. Chilling words. Again, I'm not an Assad fan, but I do think he strengthened his case and is going to make it harder for American politicians to vote in favor of starting war here.